Good Thursday afternoon. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Chris Harapsky. Every single store that you are about to hear is brand new, first on our air right now. We start with breaking news this afternoon. Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar filing the preliminary paperwork to build a campaign to run for governor of Minnesota. That official announcement on whether she is running or not is coming in a few days, according to a person close to Klobuchar. The entire governor's race was thrown through a loop earlier this month when Governor Walz announced that he would not be seeking a third term. Also happening right now, Vice President J.D. Vance is in the Twin Cities meeting with ICE agents on the ground and defending the immigration enforcement that's happening here. Vance also expected to address fraud allegations against local Somali-run child care centers. Also new this afternoon, the Minnesota Department of Corrections speaking out about what they are calling, quote, misinformation from the Department of Homeland Security about Operation Metro Surge. Commissioner Paul Schnell laying several misrepresentations by ICE and DHS about how many people they've arrested or are currently in custody for being in the country illegally. He says there are about 300 people across the state of Minnesota that are in custody right now who they know are in the country illegally, who have an ICE detainer. And that is far lower than the DHS's claim of 1,300 people, about 1,000 difference there. Schnell also showing an example of a transfer of two people between the Department of Corrections and ICE in a Sally Port recently, only to have the feds say that those same two people were taken off the streets in the Twin Cities the very next day by ICE.
The ICE official comes in to the Sally Port. This is all within the secure perimeter of the facility. The two people that are subject to the ICE detainers are escorted out by ICE officials and by our DOC staff. They're secured and they are taken to wherever ICE takes them. And yet, a day later, they show up as being caught up in the Operation Metro Surge release, and it's just not a characterization that ICE had to go out into the community and nab these people, that in fact there was a coordinated transfer of custody.
Schnell also saying several times that the state has reached out to the Department of Homeland Security to work together on this operation in the Twin Cities. But the state, the Department of Corrections, has not heard back from DHS. Meantime, Immigration and Customs Enforcement Commander Greg Bavino speaking out again this morning about what he's calling resistance against ICE on the streets of Minneapolis.
This emboldened rhetoric vilifies law enforcement and creates very unsafe situations for law enforcement and occludes from the mission of taking these bad people, as Mr. Marcos Charles said, off the streets.
Bavino heard a lot of accusations of federal law enforcement being targeted in the Twin Cities and local law enforcement not helping to stop it. He also repeated claims that people that ICE has arrested were let out of custody by county officials. Again, DOC Commissioner Schnell says there is a possibility of that happening. However, every county that they have talked with is talking with ICE to transfer those in custody who are in the country illegally. Also new today, the Minnesota BCA is being asked to investigate another use of force investigation involving a federal officer. That shooting happened on January 14th in North Minneapolis. BCA says Minneapolis police responded to the scene that night but had to stop because of a growing protest. In that incident, Julio Sosa Celis was shot in the leg by an agent after an altercation following a police chase. In that altercation, the ICE agent says that he was beaten with a shovel and a broomstick and fired his weapon in self-defense. BCA agents say police there were able to recover a plastic shovel, a bullet, and a shell casing from the scene. State investigators say they have not talked to the ICE agent involved and have been provided no information on who that officer is or whether the officer was wearing a body camera. And the BCA says the FBI notified them that they would not share the results of their initial investigation with BCA agents. Two suspects in that shooting in Minneapolis made their first appearance in federal court this week. You might remember this is the case in which Homeland Security alleges an agent was assaulted by a shovel we just talked about. But as Lou Raguse reports, testimony in court painted a different picture.
Two men who are in the country illegally, Alfredo El Horna and Julio Sosa Solis, will stand trial on charges of assaulting an officer, a federal judge decided today. But the details of the alleged assault, the resulting shot fired by the ICE officer, and what led up to the altercation are all called into question. An FBI agent testified that ICE began chasing El Horna while he delivered DoorDash, thinking he was someone else. A 20-minute high-speed chase through the city ended at 24th Avenue North, where an ICE officer and El Horna began struggling on the ground. The officer allegedly fired his gun while El Horna hit him with a broom and his friend Sosa Solis hit him with a shovel. That's the ICE officer's version of the story.
You had two different versions.
Defense attorney Frederick Getz says the evidence suggests the ICE officer fired at the men as they ran away into the house. Sosa Solis was hit in the leg.
Version 2, which I think is consistent with the broader evidence, is that the victims of the shooting were about 10 feet away, going away from the officer at the time he fired his gun. Under that scenario, this was clearly an unjustified and unreasonable use of force. But again, the facts are in dispute.
The FBI agent testified that the ICE officer has a gash on his hand consistent with a defense wound. The two defendants admit they held the broom and the shovel at one point, but deny hitting the officer with them. Getz says surveillance video supports their stories.
You would think that if the ICE agent is getting hit with a broom repeatedly, getting hit with a shovel repeatedly, and you're able to see the altercations, you would be able to see that conduct. My understanding of the video, it does not show that.
Lou Raguse reporting there. The men will not be held in jail until their trial. They will return to ICE custody. So it remains to be seen whether they'll be kept in Minnesota until their trial or if ICE will deport them before that. Also new today, Nekima Levy Armstrong, a local civil rights attorney who ran for mayor, an activist, and a St. Paul school board member, Chantel Allen, have both been arrested connected to a protest inside of a St. Paul church during a church ceremony. According to Attorney General Pam Bondi, Armstrong was arrested for playing a key role in organizing the, quote, coordinated attack on City's church in St. Paul, end quote. That demonstration was against one of the church's pastors, according to Nekima Levy Armstrong. David Easterwood is the pastor, and Armstrong accuses him of allegedly being a leader in a local ICE office. Right now, local food shelves say ICE is targeting their locations, scaring away some people. So now volunteers are bringing those groceries directly to those who need it most. Here's Jennifer Hoff.
Inside a St. Paul food hub, people are working to move all of it out, including Ann Hill.
It's been, boots on the ground full time.
The executive director of Twin Cities Food Justice normally rescues food, delivering it to local pantries, but now
Totally different for me.
is gathering it for families afraid of ICE.
We see them at a food shelf in a basement of an old church, and they're right by that church, looking for people who are coming just to get food.
Those pantries reporting 80% fewer visitors, as donations here
Crunchy peanut butter granola bars.
are soaring and sorting it all into 1,000 bags in just the last week.
This is all about people wanting to do something.
Taking it to people in need all across the metro in just 4 vans and a few volunteers,
I've done 3 trips today.
sometimes even being tailed by ICE.
We've seen ICE out at my house, which is crazy.
Training staff how to respond at places they never expected,
We're here.
including schools, whose teachers are trusted to make this final delivery, bringing these donations right to different doorsteps.
Ann is now already delivering food to 25 schools, including Anwatin Middle School in Minneapolis.
Oh gosh, this one's heavy.
As uncertainty mounts, half the students here are now not showing up.
You guys are doing the hard stuff.
Community, though, will.
Thank you.
Ask Ann.
Thank you.
And that much is certain.
We'll continue to do that
In Minneapolis, Jennifer Hoff,
as long as ICE is here.
KARE 11 News.
Ann says in normal times, 5% of Minnesotans are food insecure, meaning they don't have or know where their next meal is coming from. We posted ways that you can help. It's over at KARE11.com. Well, today a 28-year-old man is in custody connected to a missing 7-year-old girl from Zimmerman that triggered an Amber Alert overnight. You may have gotten that message on your cell phone. That girl was found in Elbert Lee off I-35, not far from the border of Iowa, about 10 hours after she was last seen getting off the bus. Police say several law enforcement agencies worked together to locate the girl after getting several tips that were sent in. They also say they shouted out the community for coming together to help locate that girl.
I want to commend the law enforcement and the community here. You know, this is the resolve, as was, the commander noted, that the community comes together. It's clear in this community how quickly everybody scrambled together to have 700 volunteers, 200 law enforcement to drop what they're doing. I certainly don't know the staffing in this county, but there certainly is not 200 people on duty at any given time. That shows the response that came here, in addition to the other state, local and federal partners that always scramble when we have a missing child.
Police did not release a lot of details about the suspect and the connection to that little girl, other than that there is a, quote, social media tie. Something else to keep an eye on today, happening right now in our nation's capital. Former special counsel Jack Smith, who investigated President Donald Trump, is testifying about his work to the House Judiciary Committee. Smith is known for investigation allegations that Trump mishandled classified documents and tried to subvert the 2020 presidential election results. Both of those cases ended without ever going to trial. Stick with us, more news and weather coming up after the break.